Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about stuff and things, I will be recapping Season 2, Episode 1 of Last One Standing, the competition series where 14 survivalists are vying to be the last one standing and $100,000. Now, before I continue, link below are some surveys. If you want to fill them out, that's great. If you don't, that's fine. And I also wanted to point out that I was incorrect in my trailer breakdown. There is no host. It was a poster on a tree. And although there have been photos with the alternates to Last One Standing posted online, none of them were added onto the main cast. So I was incorrect about that as well. Now, moving on, we are introduced to our 14 survivalists. We have Russell, Lacey, Fernando, Kate, Trish, Bulent, Kai, Dan, Jeff, Gary, Darren, Patrick, Lindsey, and Dani. And the first challenge, they are split into different groups. There's the group of men and the group of women, and they have a two-part challenge they must complete. If they are the last one to finish this challenge, they are promptly eliminated, which means day one man and one woman are going home. Now, the two-part challenge is they must use the items around them in the environment to cut a rope that is attached to a kukri knife. Once they do that, they must go to a pond and create a makeshift hook where they have to hook a rope that's attached to a log where there's a map attached, and they must use the map to find the impala skull, I believe, and they must find their note that basically guarantees them to continue in the competition and their camp assignment. Now, the first man to complete the challenge is Gary, and the first woman to complete the challenge is Trish. And although there's no reward for them finishing first, I think it should be mentioned because good for them, that was not an easy task. And the bottom two for the challenge were Bulent and Russell for the men and Lacey and Dani for the women. And unfortunately, Russell loses his rope and is the last one to finish and is promptly eliminated. And although Lacey was really close to catching up with Dani, Lacey is the last to finish and is eliminated as well. And the groups come together in their different camps. We have Dan, Fernando, and Trish in one group, Jeff, Kate, and Patrick in another, Gary, Lindsey, and Dani in another, and finally we have Kai, Bulent, and Darren. And they all set up their camps, and then the next day they all go cache hunting. And although there are caches this season, the rules seem to be more defined, and hopefully that continues, and it's very much survival based, and the producers seem to have learned from past mistakes, and it's so far so good, and hopefully there's not as much character assassination or vitriol as there was last season. And maybe Ropegate will be the big drama of the season, but we shall see. Because what happened was the groups, when looking for caches, split up, or at least a few of them split up. Jeff and Kate went to try and get some bow and arrows, and Patrick went to go look for hides. Kate seemed to forget her rope back at the camp, and while trying to build a ladder, Jeff leaves one of the ropes on the ground, and one of the rules is that stealing is okay if the item is left unattended and is not at the owner's camp. And so Dani manages to steal the rope and causes some drama with that. And there's some arguing going on online as to whose fault it is. A lot of people are pointing the finger at Kate, but Kate says it wasn't her fault. Patrick says that he still has his rope, but I don't know who to believe anymore. And speaking of stealing, Jeff tries to steal the bow and arrows from Lindsey's group because when Gary cut the bow and arrows free from the tree, they landed on Lindsey's arm, but Dani and Lindsey were holding up the ladder so Gary doesn't fall, and then Jeff tried to take the bow and arrow, and Lindsey's team was protesting, and Jeff kind of looks up and off to the side, and I think a producer was telling him, hey, you can't do that because you can only take items that are unattended and away from the opposing team's camp. Also, another rule for this season is no sharing unless they're with your survivalist group mates. There is only trading allowed, so that'll be interesting. They're fine-tuning the rules, which is great. And then when all the caches are found, there were the bows and arrows and trees. The bows and arrows were found by Dan's group and also Gary's group. There were some fishing assets that were gotten by Kai and Fernando's group, and then there were some pelts that were gotten by Jeff's group. So all the items have been found, And there is a strong hint that, someone taps out next episode in the summary of that. So we'll see. There's already a bit of fighting going on online. And also, there's been some inquisition as to why Patrick wasn't shown hunting for the pelts, because when Jeff, Kate, and Patrick were talking about getting supplies, Patrick said he'll look for the hide, and Jeff and Kate would look for the bows and arrows. But we only see Patrick once he gets back from looking for the pelt, but we don't actually see him looking for the pelt. And Jeff gives him the lowdown about how one of the ropes was stolen from them and all that. And Patrick said he couldn't find the pelt at all. But I have a theory, because before we see that scene of Patrick meeting back up with Jeff and Kate, we see Fernando, Dan, and Trish looking for different assets that they could look for, or different caches they could look for. And the camera focuses in on the spot that the survivalists have to meet on day 5. So what I'm thinking is Patrick saw the spot on the map of where the survivalists need to meet up on day 5 and went looking there and kind of scouted out the area to try to get some information about what they may be doing or where certain supplies are in case they needed it. Maybe finding some rocks or sticks that could be useful and hiding them away. Or he did look and he couldn't find anything, and that the editors or producers just didn't feel like showing it. But who knows? I think Patrick was searching for that location or was doing something else, or at least that's what was hinted about online, but we shall see. And with that, that is the end of the recap. Thank you all so much for listening. Please comment nice things and subscribe. I will be back maybe with episode 2, but all in all, a good episode so far, and a good episode and a good season so far. It seems that it will be more competitiveness. It's a lot less let's all work together. It's like let's have these small groups work together, but we'll see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic, but again, thank you so much for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye now. Bye bye.